I'm not the best at writing these posts, but I'll do my best to not make it too confusing. For the purpose of keeping it anonymous, I'll change everyone's name to my best friend of 3 years, 21F, Jane, has had an on again off again fling with my brother, 22 meters, Duke, for 2 years now. I love them together, but wouldn't be upset with either of them if nothing ever came of it. Me and Jane's other best friend of 1 year, 22F, Stacy, hadn't had the chance to meet Duke until recently. Stacy is the kind of person who speaks her mind and doesn't hold back, but Jane and I were convinced Stacy would like my brother. We all went to a bar together and we were having a great time. We all were definitely a little drunk, and when my brother Duke gets drunk, his quirkier side comes out, which obviously myself and Jane are used to. But then out of nowhere, Stacy pulled Jane aside and told her that Duke was a total weirdo, not good looking, and that she could do much better. Then Stacy went as far as to say she hates Duke, thinks he is autistic, and continued to ask Jane if he has mental problems. I overheard this and was immediately offended she would say that about my brother, especially within the first 3 hours of meeting him. Jane also got very upset that our best friend would be so quick to judge someone that her and I obviously care about so much. I kind of let it blow over for the night because I didn't want to say anything to Stacy that I would regret since I was drunk, but it was obviously still bothering me a lot. Jane and I went to lunch 2 days later at the restaurant Stacy works at, and Jane brought it up to me about how much it bothered her and how she feels ashamed for being so interested in my brother when our best friend said she hates him and thinks he's autistic. I told her I understood how Stacy's words could influence how she thinks because it hurts to hear that one of your best friends doesn't like the person you're interested in. I also explained to Jane that I was very offended that she said these things thinking I didn't hear them in that moment and that I would never find out. We agreed that it would be best for us to talk to Stacy about this and that we would at a later time, but then when I got up to use the restroom, Stacy brought it up to Jane while I wasn't there to reiterate how much she hated Duke and how she thinks he has mental problems based on how he acted while he was drunk. Jane got very upset by this, and when I got back we paid the check and left immediately, which is when I was filled in on what had happened. I know now that I really have to bring it up to Stacy, but I have no idea how to do it or what to even say. From what I'm gathering, she believes that she's done nothing wrong. I've also realized that without an apology, this is something I would consider ending our friendship over. I'd like to know if there's anything I could be interpreting wrong, but if I'm not, what should I say to Stacy? TL, Doctor, my best friend, 22F, met my brother, 22 meters, for the first time, and said that she hated him, and that she thinks he is autistic. How should I handle this? Stacy brought it up to Jane while I wasn't there to reiterate how much she hated Duke and how she thinks he has mental problems based on how he acted while he was drunk. I really want to know how Duke was acting while drunk, because it's possible Stacy is a massive obsessed asshole and the brother is an asshole. They are not necessarily mutually exclusive. So Stacy is obsessed and unpleasant. I would definitely end a friendship over that kind of thing. Of course, I'm personally autistic, to the surprise of most people who don't know me very well. So being friends with someone who conflates that with something bad is kind of right out, because they are going to constantly see me in a bad light. I have anxiety disorder, and have for much of my life. I've been asked if I'm autistic, because of certain soothing behaviors I have. I'm not. I would 100% cut someone like this out of my life for attempting to diagnose me and then punish me for it. She is literally saying autism is a reason to cut ties and avoid someone. I want to add a thought I've not seen yet. From all the context we have, Stacy seems just straight out mean. But for someone to have such a strong dislike right out of the gate, I question whether they had some interaction that you and Jane missed. Is it possible what you and Jane are used to and describe as quirky is actually pretty offensive to others? It certainly doesn't excuse her ableist remarks, but I'm having a hard time understanding how she can go so harsh on someone without an inciting event. This is what I'm curious about too. Like, how does your brother act quirky, and what did he do in this specific instance? Her comment about autism isn't okay if it's said derogatorily obviously. Has she previously said or done ableist stuff? Stassi is the kind of person who speaks her mind and doesn't hold back. Translation: Stassi is rude and hides behind "I'm just being honest" to excuse her shitty behavior. Agreed. And what's with deciding you hate someone because you think they might be autistic? That's some nasty ableism there, as other comments about mental problems. Absolutely, this is worth ending a friendship over. From what I'm gathering, she believes that she's done nothing wrong. The fact that you began the post with this, "Stassi is the kind of person who speaks her mind and doesn't hold back," leads me to believe you might be right. Does Stassi have a history of upsetting people she knows, to the extent that they end their friendship with her over it? I ask this because you've only been friends for a year. The so-called brutally honest people, who are assholes and don't want to be called out because they are so sincere and honest, and that person should be grateful because they are speaking their mind. Take this with a grain of salt, as only you can choose your friends. She's not your best friend. Best friends don't disrespect you. Best friends don't disrespect your family. Best friends don't disrespect your other best friends. They do not talk behind your back. Best friends would feel bad if they hurt your feelings, even on accident. She has no remorse because she doesn't see anything she did as wrong, which is delusional. Delusional, selfish people who bully others are not best friend material. You deserve better. Also, if you have even an ounce of respect for your brother and other friend, then you'll stand up for them and dump the delusional piss poor excuse of a friend. I didn't go through exactly this, but I had to end my longest friendship last year. She told me to my face that I had no value to her. Only I could decide what to do about it. That best friend of yours showed you through actions that she does not value you. If you value yourself, then prove it. Prove it to her. Your friend Stassi sounds insufferable. I'm very confused by her hating your brother, who has that kind of reaction to a friend's family member. It's an oddly strong and aggressive reaction. It also seems, from your telling, that she thinks of autism as something offensive and disgusting, or whatever. Again, a very strong and aggressive reaction about a possible health condition. Stassi lacks empathy and common decency, and she's not much of a friend. What a cruel and awful thing of her to say, and then to double down on it. Unfortunately, she's shown you the kind of person she really is. I sure wouldn't be friends with her anymore. It hurts to find out a friend isn't actually who you thought they were, but it's better than keeping her in your life to hurt you, your friend, and your brother. You've left out some crucial details. What precisely did your brother do at the bar? My brother was talking very close to her and everyone else we were with. He was touching our shoulders a lot to grab our attention. Other than that, I don't see what he could have done that would have bothered her that much, other than the way he carried himself throughout the night, which myself and Jane see as normal behavior for him, and it's never been an issue. I would really hate it if someone I just met was grabbing my shoulders to get my attention. To some people, that's rude. She probably doesn't know what autism is, but if she had a problem with him grabbing her shoulders, she should have told him directly. It seems kind of sudden to hate someone. Direct discussions are best. Obviously you can handle this how you want. I just happen to know people who don't like to be touched, but they don't go around telling people that they can do better. That's also rude. She is ableist, using autism as a negative about a person. She is arrogant, thinking her on the spot opinion about someone she hardly knows was warranted. She is a jerk for continuing to impress her opinion on someone who clearly disagrees with her, and doing so behind your back. Anyone described as the kind of person who speaks her mind and doesn't hold back is usually an excuse someone gives in order to be mean. The main thing you need to do is to make sure that she and your brother are never invited to the same events. At least not until she sees a therapist to get her head out of her ass. While intellectually, I realize that this kind of irrational hatred comes out of having very poor self-esteem and an extreme terror of being embarrassed in public. I'm not that sympathetic. Personally, I'd end the friendship over this, because I wouldn't want my brother thinking this kind of behavior and thinking is acceptable to me. Stassi hates your brother in particular and autistic people in general. In other words, she's a horrible person and your life would be better without her. Some quirks can be annoying and uncomfortable for some people, but to outright say you hate someone, then call them autistic in a demeaning way for having some quirks is just completely ashlery. Then on top of that, shaming someone else for being interested in such is a level up from that. She is in her right to be uncomfortable with your brother's personality. She is in her right to not understand how Jane is interested in him, but to shame Jane and saying mean stuff about your brother is very bad. Also, as some other people have said, using autistic as a demeaning term is, I'm having trouble even finding the words to describe it. I wouldn't be friends with someone like that. Stassi sounds like a real asshole. I'm not being mean and judgmental, I'm just speaking my mind and not holding back. Yeah, that excuse doesn't work for me either, I guess. I share your judgment. Is Stassi often negative, critical and finding faults in Jane's life, plans, choices etc? And has Jane been influenced by Stassi before? It sounds like Stassi is getting to Jane and trying to change her feelings for Duke so they split. I would ask Jane why she is taking Stassi's nastiness seriously. Jane likes Duke's looks and quirks, so why does it matter if Stassi doesn't? How can Stassi hate Duke when she has met him once briefly and it seems he didn't do her any wrong? And lastly, what is Stassi's reason for telling you both all this? To hurt you both as you love Duke for sure, but is she hoping to cause Jane and Duke to split and maybe a rift in your friendship too? Semicolon. Then spend less time with Stassi and respond to anything she has to say with "that's interesting." Don't bring Stassi around your brother. Not everybody is going to like everybody. Your brother rubbed her the wrong way. You also don't really get into what his quirkier side is, so we have no idea what she saw. I mean, getting drunk in 3 hours may be a bit much. Also, don't keep trying to hook your brother up with friends. Not sure why Stassi has to apologize for not liking your brother though. I don't think you understand the post completely. She isn't trying to hook up her brother with anyone. Jane is interested in Op's brother and has been for 2 years now by what I can tell. Op doesn't care either way if they work or not. She is happy if Jane is happy. OFC, Jane can have her own opinion, but shaming Jane for liking Op's brother is not her place. Based on the post, Stassi went far beyond not liking Op's brother, talking **** about him and more. Are you going to tell us what exactly you mean by his quirkier side? What exactly was he doing or saying? Bit of a red flag for this post that you just breezed on past that. https://www.reddit.com/r/x/my_best_comment/v1r0x/my_best_my_underscore met_for_my_for_brother_22m_for_rp60 Stassi is a judgmental cow. So what if he is autistic? Nothing wrong with that. So because he's quirky and she assumes he's autistic, she hates him. That sounds ridiculous. One person's quirky is another person's gigantic asshole. Edit. In fact, Op has clarified that her brother has a tendency to invade the personal space of others to the point that she frequently has to explicitly tell him to back off. If you can't see how that might make women at a bar rightly uncomfortable, I don't know what to tell you. Stassi is the kind of person who speaks her mind and doesn't hold back. An inability to be mindful of others is a real shitty trait to have and just means the person lacks tact. Stassi needs to learn some sort of tact or get removed from the group. Imo. Her level of aggression is uncalled for and isn't necessarily something I would enjoy being around. Unless there is something that we should know about your brother's quirks, this seems entirely uncalled for. So your brother can draw, or whatever. The guy's creative. What the F is that chick's problem? OTLDR. Sounds like Stassi is the autistic one, not saying this in a mean way, I mean she may be genuinely autistic. The best way to speak to autistic people is to speak to them directly, just like Stassi does, and don't sugarcoat your words. Be as direct as you can to prevent any confusion. What does Jane say to Stassi when she makes these remarks about your brother? I'm curious why she hasn't told her it's disrespectful to talk about your brother like that, because you're her best friend. I'm surprised you guys didn't confront Stassi right there at her job, after she came up to your friend. Kind of coincidence she only goes over to the table to talk bad about your brother when you weren't there. I'd back away from Stacy and minimize contact. There is a lot wrong with her judgment here. The thing is that, even if she gives you something like an apology, she isn't a person you can trust to ever self-edit or show consideration.